Welcome back, it's me, Lou. Alright, so I'm here for a very different kind of video. Um, I kind of want to do a custom, and I'll go into the details in a little bit, but first off, this video is going to be kind of more, not necessarily a step-by-step, point A to point B kind of deal. It's going to be more so just my thoughts and how I think and the process I'm going to use to create a custom He-Man accessory. And I hope, my hope is that I could provide something to the community that, you know, even if you don't have any skill in terms of like crafting or customizing or modeling, it's something that you might be able to make for yourself. And let's get started. Okay, so first off, what I want to build or create is I want to make this right here. This is the dungeon monster pit, you know, tentacle monster, whatever you want to call it, that's coming with the PowerCon 2021 exclusive set. And if you're not familiar with it, so there's the big Masters of the Universe He-Man convention called PowerCon. Last year's convention, the 2021, was canceled due to, you know, COVID and the pandemic. But it looks like the 2021 convention is going through. And since it's going through, of course, there's going to be lots of cool, fun exclusives. And, you know, unfortunately for me, they sold out and I will not be able to get them. So there's two ways of getting the exclusives. Number one, the first way you can obtain them is if you're an actual attendee of PowerCon. I think they allowed you to pre-order it. And then, you know, you just pick up the exclusives at the show. Or if you're like me and you can't attend PowerCon, I think a week later they provided pre-orders. And they were doing that through Big Bad Toy Store. And they were offering different sets. There was the Hordak set, which came with Hordak, two different versions of the Horde Trooper, and I think Grizzlor, if I remember correctly. And then there was another exclusive set, which was Fakor and the repainted Battle Cat. I don't remember the name of the animal. And the one I really wanted, the exclusive set that I was kind of jonesing for, was this set. It's called Secrets of Grayskull. So this is pretty much an accessory set to complement your Castle Grayskull playset. And what this includes is, over here, it looks like some sort of like maybe clear plastic. It's the Spirit of Grayskull. In the middle is a new action figure, and this can be interpreted different ways. I mean, if you had the original Grayskull growing up as a kid, there was a cardboard accessory, and it looked like like a robot or like some sort of futuristic looking knight, and people interpreted that as either being like, you know, like the castle's guardian or the spacesuit. But, you know, for the PowerCon exclusive, they're actually producing an actual figure. And this looks really cool. And the thing I wanted the most out of this set was the this thing. It's kind of like the monster pit / dungeon. So if you remember the original OG Castle Grayskull and even the new one. So when you open up the playset, there's the one half that features, it's like two levels. There's the first level, which is the castle door and gate. And then the second level, which is the throne room. And in the throne room, there's kind of a trap door. So the way the gimmick worked is that you twisted the throne room chair, and then the floor would open up, and then your figure would fall, you know, to the first floor. But the original playset and even the new playset, there was never really an accessory to depict the monster pit or dungeon that the figure would fall into. But for this PowerCon exclusive gift set, the Secrets of Grayskull, they actually made this thing here. They actually made a physical version of the monster pit / dungeon. And this is the only photo I've seen of it so far. It's kind of a profile shot, and you see it looks like this kind of like a makeshift floor, and then there's a grate, and the grate looks like it's on a hinge, and there's a weird tentacle monster. And this is what I really wanted. Unfortunately for me, I got the pre-order notice from Big Bad Toy Store, and I should have been smart. I should have logged on immediately and just placed my pre-order, but I kind of held it off for like an hour. I was like, I'll just get back to it later. And then by the time I logged on, all the PowerCon exclusives that that were being offered through Big Bad Toy Store were sold out, including this one. So I was kind of bummed. I'm like, oh, you know, whatever. And this one was actually reasonably priced. I think if you're an attendee at the con, this would have ran you $30, which is actually kind of a steal. I believe it was $30. And if you got it through Big Bad Toy Store, I think it was like $50. So I lucked out. I didn't get a chance to place my pre-order, so I could kind of live without the weird Spirit of Grayskull looking ghost thing. I'm sure in time, you know, someone will print them out, you know, like a 3D version, and I'll just get like a bootleg one online or something. The figure is nice, but I didn't need it that bad. I have an OG Grayskull, and I kind of just made my own out of cardboard, kind of much like the original one. And for the Origins Castle, part of me is kind of thinking maybe I could hodgepodge a figure together, since a lot of the figures have swappable parts. You know, let's try to find the course. I think this might have some original pieces though, so I think that's the only downside to that. But I'll figure out a way. I'll make the spacesuit or robot, whatever you want to call it, sometime down the road. But this is what I really wanted. I really wanted the Monster Pit / dungeon. So this video is going to be dedicated to that. I want to make this and document this process. So hopefully that if you're like me and you lucked out and you couldn't get this, what I want to provide to you is maybe kind of a how-to video of how you could recreate. I mean, by no means am I going to make anything that looks like this. But for me, I'm just going to make it a proper stand-in, something that's suitable to display. It's not going to be nowhere near as elaborate as this thing here is. But it's something I think that hopefully you'll be able to cobble together for under $10 or $15, hopefully. And it'll give you a fun display piece that if you couldn't get the exclusive set, at least you'll have your own version of this crazy looking dungeon monster looking deal. Okay, so let's sketch this out first, so you can see what I'm thinking. Alright, so my thoughts on this was I wanted to keep it simple, I wanted to keep it affordable, and yet I wanted it to be something that I could design myself, easily produce, and share it with others. I didn't want to... Now, it's very easy for me to go over the top and make something very complicated, but I want to be able to share this with people that if you don't have any modeling or crafting or customizing skills, this is something that you could like run to your local hobby store, pick up a couple of supplies, maybe shop online and grab a few things, and this is something hopefully you'll be able to make like in an afternoon or like in an evening. All right, so my first thought was I need to make a base, and I don't want it to be too complicated. So what I'm thinking of is that for a base, I can either use craft wood, like maybe like a thin balsa wood, like a board, or even maybe like a cork sheet. And we'll pretend that I'll find, you know, this represents maybe the base of it. You know, maybe we'll use like a piece of board, or even, you know, hypothetically speaking, even if you want to, you can use cardboard. But I just wanted something more durable. So for the base, you know, find yourself a thick piece of cardboard, or maybe balsa wood, or a thin sheet of wood, or masonite, something that you feel comfortable with, that you go like cut out. Like if you have some skills with like a, you know, with like a saw or whatever, and you've worked with wood before, you know, maybe you might want to opt with maybe like a thin wooden board or a piece of cardboard, and you can use that as the base. And then that'll be this. Now, in terms of the dimensions, for me, I think I measured out. So if you have the new Castle Grayskull Origins, all right, so where the monster sticker fits, there's kind of like an indentation in the floor. And I kind of measured it out to be, I think, 3 inches wide and 4 inches deep. I'm not sure how large this is. Like, I have no idea if this is actually to scale with this figure. For all I know, I have a feeling this is a lot smaller. And this might actually fit that 4x3 area. But for me, I don't care. I want to make something big and large and crazy, regardless of whether or not it's going to fit perfectly into that little slot. Even if it overlaps it, I'm perfectly fine with it. So for me, I'll figure out the dimensions later. But for now, let's just kind of go into the planning stages. So we need a base here. So we'll either use, you know, for me, I'm kind of leaning on a cork board, and I'll explain that later. But if you want, you can use cardboard or even a thin sheet of wood or balsa wood, which is easy to cut through. Next, there's going to be the grate. And I want that to actually feel like a relief, like a separate... I mean, you can easily just paint the grate on here if you wanted to, but I want it to feel more 3D. So for me, I might opt with maybe like coffee stirring sticks, or maybe, I don't know, popsicle sticks or something, or even like balsa wood. And then we'll just plan out the grate here. Maybe we'll just keep it simple. We'll just give it four slots in the grid, maybe. So from an overhead view, this would look like this. I mean, of course, you can be more detailed about it, but there's a specific reason why I only want 4 slots in my dungeon trapdoor. So this is just the overhead view. And then we have this here, this giant tentacle-looking thing. Now, I went ahead and ordered something online. I found this on Amazon. I forgot what I was looking. I was doing some sort of weird random search one evening, and I came across these. They're actually pretty cool, and I think it'll work perfect for this project. These are finger puppets, and the cool thing with these finger puppets is that they actually look like tentacles. It's awesome. And you can put one on each finger of your hand, and you have tentacles. So I saw these and I'm like, oh my god, these are perfect for making the monster pit. You know, I could easily just take these and, you know, substitute them for this. And to make it even crazier is that I bought a set of these. You know, you have 5 fingers, hence 5 tentacles. So I have 5 of these. I'm like, I can easily use more than one and just make it look crazy. So I'm like, okay, that's awesome. So I have these. I want to say I got these on Amazon for maybe like anywhere between $9 and $11, I think. Which might seem like a lot, but for what you're getting, trust me, it'll be awesome. I think once I create this custom monster dungeon pit, I think I could sell you on you wanting to order these for like maybe like anywhere between $9 and $14, because I think it'll be cool. So yeah, so I have these. So that answers this thing. You know, I can make this. Now I don't know why this looks like it's on a hinge. I don't know what the purpose of it opening is, nor do I know why it has a weird slot on the side. I'm guessing that there might be some sort of play feature involved. But for me, I just want to create a display piece. You know, I just want to create this a base, a grate, and have these crazy tentacles coming out of it. So it looks like, you know, there's something coming out of this dungeon. So imagine, if you will, here's what we made. Here's the base, here's the grate, and then maybe we can have at least 3 of these tentacles coming out of the grate hole. Yeah, so if you can imagine just having these coming out of these grate holes, I think it looked really cool. So I actually went ahead and started buying some of these supplies. Now, this is my first time documenting something like this, so that's why I'm kind of hesitant about, like, you know, what I'm doing right now, because I want to try to make sure that the instructions I convey to you are as clear as possible, so you can kind of recreate what I'm doing. As I mentioned before, the materials you use could vary. Like for me, I might choose... I'm opting either between a wooden board or a cork board, and I'll explain that later. But if you're on a budget, or if you want to keep this cheap, or if your crafting skills are kind of low, you know, feel free to use cardboard. Just find a thick piece of cardboard and use that as the base. And let's take a look at what I've got so far. So I bought this at one of my local craft shops, and these are cork tiles. This was like $5.99, and I got it's a 4-pack, and these measure 6 by 6. Now, if this seems like a lot, I mean, for me, I'll get my money's worth out of them, because I do a lot of crafting and customization with other toys and things, so I'll find uses for the remaining pieces I don't use here. But I wanted to use this because I thought it was a perfect size. Let's take it out. don't know what this is. Alright, so it looks like these come with some sort of weird adhesion kind of padding. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe explains it in the instructions. Oh, it's mounting tape. Okay, never mind. Alright, so I'm going to take one of these out. Alright, so cork, it's a nice material. It's sturdy enough, but it's nothing that, you know, you don't want to like this. It could break easily. So if you like decide to fold, it's gonna crack in half. But I wanted to use this for a very specific reason. All right, so we'll imagine that we'll use this cork here as the base, and cork has a tendency to flake also. So I'll explain later. But after you're done assembling this, what you're gonna want to do to prevent the cork from flaking is you want to apply some Mod Podge on it. And it's kind of like a sealant / glue, and it'll kind of seal it. And I don't know, it'll make sense later. I'll run you through the paces once I complete this, hopefully. So I'm thinking I'm gonna use this as the base. I have some. I bought this also at my local craft store. I also have balsa wood, but that's in another room right now. But I'll just pull these out and use these as an example. And that's if I can open it. So these are, I think I bought these. I might have bought these at Walmart. I take it back. Maybe not at the craft shop. And these are kind of like, they're almost like coffee stir sticks. So what I plan on doing is this. I want to make the grate. So I figure I could take a couple of these, and if I need to cut them out also to get the right size, I could easily do that. But this is just, you know, for now, it's just kind of demonstration purposes. So these aren't going to be cut out perfectly, but just imagine if they are. So I'm just going to take these and either using like wood glue or hot glue or super glue, adhere these to the base, and then let's just kind of, maybe I'll create a grid pattern. And it'll look nicer once I glue it together. I mean, these aren't cut to size. So imagine, you know, it's not going to have these protrusions here. And what will happen next is, so I'm going to paint the base green. The inside of this frame, it's going to be black because it kind of like the pit. The pit's like dark, and then you can have these tentacles coming out of it. So this is kind of like my version of the monster pit. Now the question remains, how am I going to mount these onto this cork board? And for me, the answer is simple. I bought this online, but you can even find these at your craft shop also. These are cork stoppers, different sizes, and I want to find a size that I think will that's kind of like the size of my finger, if not a little bit bigger. And this looks like a good size. And I'm thinking maybe I could fit one of these into here. This one might be too big. Let me get a smaller one. I'm going to go a size down. Yeah, so I'm thinking what I could do is I could attach one of these cork things at the bottom of here as a base, like that. And then you have two choices. If you want this, alright, so let's say you're using cardboard or a wooden board. If you want to make this permanent, you can easily just like glue it on, or you know, maybe nail it in or screw it or something. But the reason why I'm using cork is because I bought these thumbtacks, or push pins. I think they're, yeah, these are thumbtacks. And the thing with cork is that the way cork is structured is that it's a material they use on a bulletin board. So it can easily be pressed through the material without wrecking it. And then I could take this, place it on there, and I could place, wait, where's the right size one? So there's that. I could place this on there, and voila. It doesn't stick. Okay, maybe that's not such a great idea. At least that's what I was hoping I could do. But it seems like I need a longer pin. So either I might have to find a longer nail or something. But I thought a push pin would work. But you kind of get what I'm trying to convey here is that, you know, you put this in, this mounts on top of that, and then you kind of have a base for it. So it'll stick. My attitude at this point is I might just glue it, just keep it permanent. But I wanted to use a push pin just so I could remove it, you know, so that I could have two different looks. I could have the grate without the tentacles, or I could have the grate with the tentacles using the push pin. But it kind of leaves like a permanent hole in there now. So, I don't know, we'll see. I might just end up gluing it. It's like I said, for me this is more about creating a display piece. And I want this to be something that you can make for under $10 or $15. You know, so hopefully you can find these materials at home, most of them. The only thing is, you might just have to just find these online. I found these on Amazon. I can't remember what the search was for, but I'm sure if you search for finger puppets, you know, tentacles or animals or octopus or squid, you might pull these up. So yeah, that's the plan. That's the goal. So, let me get to my crafting table and see what I could come together. And hopefully I'll have something to show for this. It's like I said, as much as I'd like to be able to guide you through this step by step, this is a very, for me, it's kind of make up as I go along. So I don't know how successful I'll be or how unsuccessful I'll be. But I hope the information I provide so far is enough to work with. And in a little bit, I'll come back to you with hopefully a little bit more developed, finished results, and we'll go from there. All right, I'll be back in a second. All right, I'm back, and this is what I've completed so far. This took me a little over an hour to do. It wasn't difficult at all. I didn't use it. This isn't perfect by any means. The craftsmanship on this could be a lot better. This isn't necessarily going to be a final product. For me, this is kind of more so a prototype or kind of like a proof of concept. I just wanted to see, you know, what I could accomplish with the bare minimum. As I stated before, I kind of want to, you know, provide something that, you know, if this is something that interests you, and you know you weren't able to pre-order or purchase the Secrets of Grayskull, and you really want, you know, this, you know, dungeon piece like I do. You know, my goal was to kind of make a somewhat, you know, fill-in or substitute. And I kind of wanted to provide instructions and materials for people that, you know, you're not necessarily the handiest person or are good with crafts, or if, you know, even if you're just a beginner. I wanted to provide something that's simple and easy to follow. And I think so far with this is the most bare minimum. I think this is very doable for someone that has very little modeling or crafting experience. So I took the cork tile, and everything here was eyeballed. I didn't use a ruler for any of this. And I took thick sticks of balsa wood that I bought at my craft store. And the first thing I did was I made a square frame, like so. And then I kind of just figured out, you know, the grid. How many squares did I want in here? Initially, I thought I was just going to have 4. But then I opted to have 9 squares altogether. So then I'd have 2 vertical bars going down and 2 going across. So that's how I divide my frame. And it's just a matter of just using hot glue, gluing on the pieces, and just trying to make it work. As I stated before, I can't necessarily provide really specific instructions. If anything, this is more so of a guide for you to follow loosely. You know, material-wise, you can pretty much just use whatever you want. For me, I used cork tile. If you have cardboard at home, cardboard's fine. Or if you're good with wood, you know, you can use like a wood board or masonite or something. And so far, this is the result before I go into painting it. And it's kind of cool because here are the tentacles. So you go. Now, I'm not going to attach the tentacles permanently. You know, once I get this painted, I can just place them on. And this kind of gives you an idea of what it'll look like. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. So, you know, here's my monster pit, my makeshift custom monster pit. And yeah, the tentacles. Hopefully it'll look nicer once I paint it up. But you get the point. I mean, here's the stock Mattel one. And they have the one giant tentacle coming out of the middle of it. And as I stated before, there's a hinge here, so I'm not sure what the play features are with this, because there's even a slot on the side. So I'm guessing, you know, maybe this thing can open. Maybe there's like a lever here, and you move it, and maybe this thing can move around. I don't really know. Not much information has been provided, other than just this photo and description of the item. Mine is more so just a fill-in display piece. Feel free to make yours as large or as small as you want. For me, I just wanted to make it a little bit larger because I kind of needed the space and see what I could do with it. As I mentioned before, in the Castle Grayskull Origins, on the first floor where the sticker of the monster pit goes, there's actually the floor is indented and it's about 4 inches deep and 3 inches wide. And I could have made that to fit that perfectly, but I opted to go with something bigger. And I don't know, we'll see if it works or not. But it's a display piece, and this is just a proof of concept. I want to see if I can make this look nice, and if it kind of works in the end. I'll probably attempt a second version, and I'll work out all the kinks and, you know, whatever mistakes I learned from making this one. So in terms of making this, let's start from the beginning. So the first thing I did was I took my cork tile here and used that as the base. Then I took some balsa sticks and I cut them, and I made this square frame, and I used hot glue to affix it to the tile. And next I took thinner wooden sticks. I got those at Walmart. You can probably find them at craft stores. And I kind of made a 3x3 grid, and I hot glued them down. Now, the thing is also is that these wouldn't all lay flat evenly on the frame. So I had to, what I had to do was, I took, this is going to sound confusing. Maybe it makes more sense if you view it from here. So if you view it from here, here's the wooden sticks, and then here are the braces of the frame. Now I had to add the vertical ones first. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason why I doubled up on the edges is because I knew I'd have these cross beams going across. And if I didn't have these extra 2 sticks glued on top of the frame, these wouldn't fall flush with this, if that makes any sense. So I had to elevate these 2 sides here to accommodate for the 2 upper braces on top. So you have level 1, and then there's level 2, and then the top braces are placed over it, if that makes sense. And that was all affixed with hot glue. You know, once again, my craftsmanship wasn't at my best. I just eyeballed it. I didn't want to get I wasn't too concerned about making sure everything was perfect. I was just more concerned about just fleshing out the concept and seeing if this idea would work. So then the next thing I did is, as I showed you earlier, I bought these cork plugs on Amazon. I bought a multi-pack that had different sizes. So there were some that were larger, some that were smaller. But the diameter of these fit well enough that I could take the finger puppets of the tentacle and place it on top. And it's kind of a snug fit. If I shake it around too much, it starts to dangle. It's not going to fall off immediately, but it doesn't fall in as snug. One way I could alleviate that is I could probably trim the tentacle, because it's wider at the base and it gets narrower as it goes up. So maybe if I took an inch or 2 off here, it'd be a more snug fit, since the tentacle gets skinnier as it goes up. But I don't really feel like shortening it, and I don't want to necessarily affix these permanently in case I decide to use these tentacles elsewhere. But so far it works. You know, it's not like I'm going to be playing with this. As I said before, this is more so a display piece. It's not going to have the playability or functionality of like the real toy. Whatever that may be, because it hasn't been revealed yet. And if you wanted to, you could add more tentacles. Like the tentacle puppets I bought came with 5 tentacles, 1 for each finger. But I'm going to save 2 of these, because I'm going to attempt to make another one of these at some time down the road. But like I said, I want to make improvements on my second version, and I'm just gonna save these for that. And then, so I took these cork plugs and then I hot glued them into each square, wherever I thought it'd look cool. But at the same time, once you affix it permanently, you want to make sure there's a large enough gap between the cork and the brace or the inside of the frame, because you have to accommodate for the tentacle. Like if I glued this too close to going this way, this wouldn't fit, and there'd be a space conflict. So just make sure this is kind of centered, and that the squares you decide to measure out will accommodate this with some room to spare. You want to have a gap somewhat around it. And also make sure that these were kind of affixed in place. What I did also is I took a paper clip, straightened it out, and cut it, and kind of used that as a pin on the inside, and then on the other side I folded it. But you don't see it here just because I stacked two tiles in place. I didn't necessarily need to add a second tile underneath it, but I kind of wanted to thicken this up and just make it a little bit more sturdy. So that's where we are right now. It's very simple. This took me an hour. There's not really, for me this is kind of like feeling it out when I did it. I kind of made it up as I went along. That's why I don't really have instructions for you. If anything, just kind of take a look at this and to see what I did, and maybe inspire you to do something very similar. Alright, so now that the construction part's done with, we're going to talk about how I'm going to go about painting this. So the first thing I want to do, I'm not going to apply paint directly to this. What I want to do first is kind of seal the cork, because cork is kind of not only is it a porous material, but it's essentially just kind of like the softwood pieces just pressed together really hard, and it chips kind of easy, and I kind of want to make sure everything's just kind of sealed. So I'm going to use something called Mod Podge. And what this is, it's a water-based sealer, glue, and finish. So it's kind of like a 3-in-1. It'll seal the project. It's also kind of a glue, and it's also kind of a finish. So what it's essentially going to do is going to seal it. It's going to add a layer of extra strength to it. And since it's part glue, it's going to make sure that all these kind of cork pieces aren't going to flake off. And what I'm going to do is, because the Mod Podge this one isn't open, but it's white. So I'm just going to take a mixture and mix it up with some, I might water it down a little with some water and add some black paint. So essentially it's just going to be almost like a black primer once I apply it on there. And then I'll paint it from there. So that's where I'm at now. In terms of painting it, I'm not going to color match it to Grayskull perfectly. I bought these two paints at the craft store, and one's kind of a light green, one's kind of like a medium green. And I think if I do a 50-50 mixture, I should have something that's kind of comparable to what Grayskull is. I was looking at it earlier, and I don't want a perfect match because I also kind of want to use this with my old school Grayskull, and that's a different color than the new Origins one. Alright, so far I hope this is making sense. I've never done this before, and it's kind of a weird process for me to actually make something and document it as I'm going along. I kind of wish I was a little bit more specific in terms of instructions, but I was kind of really just anxious and I wanted to get to it. Because I saw it in my head, and I'm like, I just need to, flesh it out as soon as possible before I forget what I'm doing, or I don't know. I was just really inspired, and when I'm really inspired, I just want to, get to it. So far, I hope this makes sense, and we'll go to the next phase. We'll go into painting. So, see you soon after I'm done priming it. I'm gonna prime it first. I'm gonna seal it, prime it, and then I'll come back to you before we actually start painting it. Okay, so this is where I'm at right now. So I took the Mod Podge and I made a mixture of that, maybe about, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 parts to 1 part water and maybe 1 part or more black acrylic paint, and I kind of mixed it together, and I used the blackened Mod Podge, and I just kind of painted all over the entire thing, as you can see here. And it's starting to look a little bit more uniform and put together. And what I did lastly is that I took some gray primer and I added the primer to the what's going to be the steel grate or the iron grate. That's this. And I mean, I didn't necessarily need to add the primer. I could have probably painted over the grates as they were with the black Mod Podge on it. But having a gray base, it'll just accentuate the silver paint. It'll make it look brighter as opposed to paint. Because when you apply a lighter color to a darker color, that lighter color is going to appear darker unless you keep on adding more and more layers. But with a gray primer like this, if I apply silver over it, I won't have to add as many layers, and it'll actually look somewhat closer to the silver it's supposed to look like and somewhat brighter. So yeah, this is where we're at right now. I hope these instructions are making sense. As I mentioned earlier, it's like this is a very loose guide on how to make this. You can use whatever materials you want. If anything, this is just more so kind of inspiration for you to like take your own course and decide how you want to proceed. If you wanted to make you know, a little monster pit or dungeon like I have here. So we're really close right now, and I'm excited to see how this is going to turn out. So what remains now is that I'm going to paint the outer edges kind of a green. It's not necessarily going to match the gray skull color green, but I'll do something close, a somewhat close approximation, because I want the color to fall in between the original castle's color and the Origins castle's color, just so I could kind of interchange this between either set. And I'm going to paint this iron grate, maybe like a metallic, I don't know, like a silver or an iron kind of color. I'll dig into my paints and see what I got. And once that's completed, the final step will just be seal this down with a sealant. I might use Minwax polyurethane, and then after that go over it with a dull coat, a Krylon matte finish, a clear matte finish, just to dull down any luster or shininess this might have. And so yeah, I'm gonna go paint this up now, and I'll be back. So fingers crossed, hopefully this will turn out at least as good as I hope it will. So, and if you're following along and trying to make heads or tails of what's going on, you know, just kind of bear with me. Hopefully once I have the final product finished, it'll give you an idea of how you could proceed and make your own little monster pit / dungeon. Okay, I'll be back soon. And here we are, the final completed piece. It's not perfect, but for now it'll do. Like I said earlier, for me this is kind of more so just trying to make a prototype or a proof of concept. Hopefully in the near future, I'd like to take a stab at this again. There's ways I definitely could improve it. The craftsmanship isn't the greatest, but it's like I said, this is just a kind of like a fill-in placeholder, since I wasn't able to pre-order the official PowerCon exclusive Secrets of Grayskull set. And yeah, it looks great. So what I did is I painted the grate silver, gave it a nice wash to bring out the detail, and I used Nuln Oil, and that's a wash produced by Games Workshop. It's from their Citadel line of paints, and then I mixed those two greens together and got this. And I also gave that a nice ink wash. For that I used Agrax Earthshade, which is also produced by Games Workshop. Once I was done painting everything, I gave it a coat of what was it again? Minwax polyurethane. It's a fast drying spray, and that kind of sealed everything. But it kind of had a really glossy finish, and I just covered that with a, I believe it is Krylon clear matte finish, and this is the result. So it's not too glossy, it's a little more on the satin side, and it looks nice. It's definitely what I kind of had in mind, and let's take a look at it with the actual tentacles. So the tentacles plug into the cork plugs like this. And since they're not affixed permanently, I can kind of like move them around, turn them. And there we go. So it's my monster pit. I'm very happy with it. It's cool. In terms of size comparison, let me pull these off real fast. Alright, so here's the base. Here's the Masters of the Universe Zodac Origins figure. And I wanted to make it larger than what was intended for the playset. Because in the playset, as I mentioned before, the first floor beneath the trapdoor has a slot that measures 4 inches deep and 3 inches wide. But I wanted to make mine larger, so it seems like, you know, if an actual figure fell into it, you know, it looks like the right size. And I figure this looked close enough. I mean, this guy looks like he could easily fall into something like this. And with the tentacles, each tentacle, let's compare height comparison. So the tentacles are about, you know, roughly the same height as the figure. So it's really cool. I'm glad I made it. It's not the official release, and in honesty, if I could get the official release, I would. But there's something special about crafting your own action figure accessory and customizing it, and it's neat. And you know, he's getting eaten up. So it's awesome. So otherwise, I hope you found this informative. These were very loose instructions on how to make something like this. You know, my suggestion is, you know, don't spend a lot of money. The only thing that you might have to get that's not going to be easily to find is the puppet tentacles. You know, I found these on Amazon. I think they were like, I forgot the name of what they were called. They might have been like squid tentacles or something, but they're finger puppets. And they're perfect for this. But when it comes to making this, you know, if you want to keep it cheap, just use cardboard, cut up a pizza box or cereal box. Just use craft paint. You don't have to use anything fancy. And just kind of stay, you know, within your skill set. You know, if you aim for something too high and you get frustrated, it's not going to be any fun. But if it's something that you feel comfortable doing and you're working within your means, you know, it's definitely worth the endeavor. So in closing, I'll probably close this video out. I'll take some still shots and we'll kind of showcase this in action per se. And I kind of want to do a video in the future, a follow-up to this. Maybe it's more of a cinematic reveal, or even talk about what I'd do if I did this again, or, you know, actually make a second version of this where, you know, I might change some of the features or go into more detail and do something that, I don't know, kind of raises the bar of what this is. Because as much as I love this thing, you know, there's a part of me that's like, I see certain things where I could have done differently, or areas I could have improved upon. So, thanks for checking this out. If you have any questions, let's leave comments below. And we'll close this video out with a nice gallery of photos featuring my new Grayskull monster pit / tentacle monster. Alright, let's get to it.